started. I'm Lexa Rizzi. I'm the marketing manager here at Alcorn Immigration Law. Super happy to be a part of this amazing team. And I am going to read through a couple of housekeeping items with you before we get started. So first of all, thank you so much, all of you, for being here today for our Extraordinary Abilities Bootcamp live webinar. This webinar is being recorded and the recording link will be emailed to all attendees. This webinar is provided as an educational service by Alcorn Immigration Law. The information discussed is overview only and should not be construed as legal advice or advice to take any specific action. Please be sure to consult a knowledgeable professional with assistance for your particular issue. Lastly, please submit any questions you may have using our Q&A function, so don't use the chat. Make sure you pop them in the Q&A so we don't miss them. The questions will get shared publicly, so please do not share any sensitive or personal information. There's an option for you to submit your questions anonymously. We will try to get to as many questions as time permits. So it is now my pleasure to introduce you to Nadia Zaidi. She is one of our attorneys here at Alcorn Immigration Law. Take it away, Nadia.
Thank you, Lex, for the introduction. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. So I will just give you a brief introduction of Alcorn Immigration Law. Our mission is to overcome borders, expand opportunity, and connect the world by practicing compassionate, cutting-edge, and rigorous immigration law in service of the betterment of humanity. We try every day to help people like you live your dreams. I am Nadia Zaidi. I'm a business immigration attorney here at Alcorn. I have about 10 years of experience practicing immigration law. I am an immigrant myself, a child of immigrants, and that is what brought me to this field in the first place. And some highlights from my career so far: I was featured in Forbes as having particular expertise in working with startups and creatives. So I'm excited to share everything with you all today. Sophie Alcorn is not on this webinar today, but she is the founder of Alcorn Immigration Law. Alcorn is one of the fastest growing immigration law firms in Silicon Valley. She is a board certified specialist in United States immigration and nationality law by the State Bar of California. She has assisted thousands of startups and individuals with US immigration. She has a column in TechCrunch called Dear Sophie, where she regularly shares her expertise on extremely detailed questions about immigration law. And she's been quoted in global publications. She is also a top 40 under 40 attorney by the American Society of Legal Advocates. This is our network. We are proud to be part of this amazing network, which has connected us with so many brilliant startup founders and creatives and other professionals who we have been able to help. So who can we support? Well, we can support people who dream of working and living in the United States. And that includes startup founders, it includes rapidly scaling technology companies, and it includes their families. So if you want to start your own company, if you are already a part of a company and you want to retain top talent, but that talent needs immigration options, then we are here to provide assistance. These are some of our glowing reviews. Of course, we have worked with thousands of people. You know, amongst all of us here at Alcorn, we probably have a combined, 25 years of experience. And these are just examples of two of our very happy clients who we helped achieve their dreams in getting a national interest waiver and then proceeding with getting a green card, as well as helping somebody who wasn't sure how they could pursue their goals actually be able to do what they wanted. So we wanted to share that here. So the question is, do you need a faster green card? Well, maybe the EB-1A will work for you, especially if you are a citizen of India or China. Do you maybe need to break away from your company and have the freedom to start your own? And maybe you want to found your own startup. Well, if so, you are in the right place. So here is the solution for you. So extraordinary ability and national interest visas are two of the categories that we help people file petitions under. And once those are successful, they can go on to file their green card applications.
Awesome. Nadia, thank you so much for all that background. Would you mind walking us through the more specific requirements that people might need or things that they might need to be aware of for to qualify for extraordinary abilities?
Yes, it is a tongue twister. Imagine saying that
Somewhat.
all day, every day.
I couldn't.
So there are a number of legal criteria that you need to satisfy in order to qualify for extraordinary ability. And the good news is that you need 3 of these. So the first one is prizes and awards. So you need to prove that you have won an international or national prize or award. Memberships, you need to prove that you are a member of an association which demands outstanding achievement. So the key here is that it should be exclusive and invitation based. It shouldn't be something that you could just pay your way to be a part of. Publicity. So we need evidence that there has been published material about you, or that, well, the next one is going to be that perhaps you haven't published articles yourself, but there have been articles then published about you or your company and your work. And then judging. Judging is whether or not you have been a part of any peer review. Have you been asked to be a part of a panel, either individually or, as part of a group of people who are reviewing the work of others within your field? Original contributions. So this is really what I see as the heart of it. What are the original contributions you have made to your field? And everything I just mentioned, it all sort of culminates to prove this. How do we prove original contributions? We prove it through the awards you might have won, the memberships you might be a part of, the judging you might have done, and maybe you have received a lot of publicity within your field because of the work that you've done and how it's impacted other people. This can also be in the form of patents or white papers or research that you have done. But it's very document intensive, evidence intensive. So we are trying to use the full picture to prove that you in fact have made original contributions in your field. Authorship. So before I was talking about publicity, that was more, has there been anything published about you or your work? Authorship is focusing on whether you have published. And many times people think this applies just to scientists or individuals that work in academic fields, but it could apply to others as well. If you have published articles in any trade journal or other widely circulated publication within your field, then it certainly helps an extraordinary ability petition as well. Leading critical roles. This is what roles have you served in to date, and how have they been important, and what organizations were they with? So here, the bigger the names, the better. Distinguished organization means that is a company that is well known, well received, has a certain reputation as well. So that is what this critical role category is about.
I have the next one is about letters of recommendation. I have a question. A lot of people have questions about this. Where do they need to come from? Who needs to write them? Can you expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So letters of recommendation are often, you're right, Lex, what people have a question about, and they sort of get intimidated by, well, I'm going to need these letters of recommendation. Where do I start? Who do I ask?
Yeah.
First of all, it is very much part of our process to help people figure that whole thing out. But the first thing to do is to think about your field and your profession to date and all of the work you've done. Look back at your CV and your resume, and then think back to all of the key highlights of your career so far, and think about who is a person that would be a representative from that time in your career who could actually speak to your achievements. And this could be, now, it is important who the letters come from. They should be people who themselves would be considered experts. And we need to prove that through their bios or their own CVs, because a USCIS officer is going to give weight to somebody else's opinion if they themselves are expert in the field. So you need to think about that person's title, the affiliated organization, as well as what the context of how they know you and what they would say about you. And you really have to think through that. And again, it should be from various parts of your career, because these letters are going to go back to that point about original contributions and about critical roles. And you want to make sure that you cover all of that with these letters of recommendation. And then the bonus. So these are all things that help further strengthen your application. So everything I just mentioned is sort of the foundation of a strong application for extraordinary ability. But then if you have earned a very high salary, and now, you know, with startup founders, we are also able to use equity and whatnot to prove this category. So there's the money, there's the artistic exhibitions or showcases. This basically means that, have you showcased your work? And of course, for artists, this is clear. Have you showcased your work at an exhibition? But for people that are not artists, maybe you invented something and you went to a conference and people, you presented it and it was well received. So all of that would be helpful in this case. An advisory opinion it's for certain fields where there's a peer group. So the easiest example is an actor. For actors, there's the Screen Actors Guild, and USCIS does want a letter from Screen Actors Guild if you are trying to prove that an actor has extraordinary ability. For our founders and entrepreneurs, this isn't as relevant because there's no peer group in that same way as there is for other fields, but we just wanted to mention that. And then performing arts success. So this is, again, this applies to our artists who might be performing at various venues, and then we can prove that they've had commercial success.
So yeah, thank you, Nadia. What is Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp? And more importantly, how can it help all the guests that have signed up to be here today?
Yeah, so it's actually great because you might not be sure whether or not you qualify for extraordinary ability. And after I went through all the criteria, you might be wondering, well, you know, I think I have some, but I think I don't have enough in this other category. So Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp is really created for people in this situation. So what we do is it's a 15-module course where Sophie Alcorn has recorded hours of video footage, which takes a deep dive into the requirements of the O1A, which is the non-immigrant extraordinary ability category, the EB-1A extraordinary ability immigrant category, as well as the EB-2 national interest waiver category for a green card. So she breaks down the criteria. She provides lots of information about what is considered good evidence, what is bad evidence, and then provides lots of extra resources so that you can have some concrete plans in place to qualify for one of these categories. And I believe we're gonna share a special promo at the end. Okay, so how do we know what is good evidence and bad evidence? Well, we can look back at cases we filed, and we can look back at the requests for evidence we received, because as you may know, when you file a case with USCIS, if they feel that you haven't provided enough evidence, they will send something called a request for evidence. And so you get another shot at it. You get another chance to provide them with more information and more evidence. And we use that as a learning tool. We first of all try to avoid RFEs as much as possible because we do a really great job of filing very thorough petitions in the first place. But sometimes RFEs are inevitable, especially with something so subjective like proving extraordinary ability. So we use that as a learning tool, and that we can pass on to our clients that, you know what, this evidence, it's not strong enough and it won't be looked at very favorably by USCIS, and you need to do more, or you need to come up with something else to prove this. And so we share lots of examples of that.
Yeah, I know that you brought some examples, and we get lots of questions about that as well. So can you walk us through a few examples of evidence?
Yes, absolutely. So one example I can give is of an entrepreneur who really needed to do more to qualify for the membership category as well as the awards and grants category. And we had to be creative and sort of help this client not come up with the evidence. He had the evidence there, but we had to be creative in how to frame it and how to make it fit into the legal criteria. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're part of an accelerator, or you are part of a entrepreneurial membership organization, which is at all selective, that can be used as evidence. And it's just a matter of making sure that you have the right evidence and that you are able to provide us with that. And if you're not, then we will help you brainstorm, how you can obtain it. And another example is a product manager who really, wasn't that confident that he would qualify for EB-1A, Extraordinary Ability, because a lot of his work is behind the scenes. He is not somebody that is working, at the front line. He's a product manager. He's working behind the scenes to launch very, very creative and interesting technology. And so we were able to creatively use evidence that he did have in order to prove that he is one of the best in his field. And that is really part of our job, is to tell USCIS officer that, hey, by the way, a product manager is not regularly publishing articles in Forbes. He's busy creating maybe patented technology or helping his company reach certain sales goals. So we need to really think outside the box, but then it's all about presentation and explaining it to the government how this person would qualify. And we were successfully able to do that in this case. And we were all really, really happy with the result. Wait, Lex, for some reason, I can't hear you.
I'm back. I muted myself.
Okay, good.
Before we finish up with the last few slides, I want to leave you with this quote that we love. Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand and work with whatever tools you may have at your command, and better tools will be found as you go along. That is from George Herbert. So just get started, guys. Great. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with that first step.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think this is so important because, I talk to people every day that really don't think they will qualify. And I have seen in a period of months, I've seen them actually work to realize that they do have evidence to qualify for one of these criteria. And it's just a matter of actually, taking on those opportunities. There's lots of people that say, well, I was asked to do this, but I didn't do it because I didn't have time. And I'm like, well, go back to them and say you do have time.
Do it.
You can do it. Yeah, absolutely. And so if you don't have millions to invest in a US business and you're not about to marry a US citizen, then this may be the course for you. And I think the biggest and best part of it is really the freedom that you can get if you do qualify for one of these criteria, because the EB-1A and the EB-2 National Interest Waiver can actually be self-sponsored. And I think that's really important for entrepreneurs who want to work for themselves. So it's a very coveted category to apply under, but of course the scrutiny is very high. So that's why we're here. We're here to support you. And I don't know, Lex, if you want to share some of the different things we have going on, that our podcast. And
we do. We have all of those things. And before I get into that, the link right there is to enroll in this actual course. And all of you here today have access to a 30% off discount code, which is right there on your screen. And we will also email this information to you as a follow-up with the recording of the webinar. So yeah, and we are on all social media channels. We're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and you can find us on LinkedIn as well. So we really hope to connect with you and continue to support you on your journeys. And I believe we are going to open it up for some Q&A. I see a few questions came through, and I know we had a couple from registration. So I will let Nadia go ahead and answer those questions.
Yeah, so let me just do this so that I can look at the questions. And just give me a second as I quickly glance through the questions that came in before. And of course, thank you for sharing your questions, because we try to leave lots of time for this so that we can actually cover these questions, because I know that it's a lot of information to sort of absorb. So one of them was, I want to move to the US while most likely doing my own startup, and I'm unsure of the path to it. Well, if you want to start your own startup and you would like to do that in the US, the first step is really to incorporate the startup. You know, once you've incorporated the US business, you have laid down the groundwork for actually having something concrete there that you can, you can invest your time in. And then we look back at what have your successes been so far, and what were you doing before you started the startup, as well as how are things going with the startup. So some of the things I talked about, such as awards and prizes, now USCIS is looking even more favorably at startup founders being able to raise money. So how much money is your startup able to raise, and who are you raising that money from? All of that can help you, with an extraordinary ability petition. So if you're unsure of the path, I would say that incorporating a business in the US does not require you to have any specific immigration status. Tourists even come in to incorporate a company in the US. You can do that. And then we look at your profile and we see, what do we have to work with? And if it's nothing at this moment, then we can help you figure out what you can do to sort of build up that profile. Another question here, of course, thank you, is my spouse is on a TN visa. If I want to immigrate, can I apply for extraordinary ability to expedite our green card? So TN is tricky because it is single intent. Single intent means that you told the government that your intention was to come and work for this specific company for a short period of time, and that you did not have any intention of remaining permanently in the US. So can you immigrate based on extraordinary ability? Possibly. However, you just have to be careful about the logistics of when and how you file that, because it could then risk your TN status. So if you have more specific questions about this, it's always good to schedule a consultation so we can get to the details of that. And then I'm just looking over, here's a good one. I used to be a judge in a large tech contest 6 years ago in Ukraine. I'm afraid there's no external mentions anymore. Can this be served as evidence? I believe yes, there may be no external mentions anymore, but is there somebody who was affiliated with that contest that could provide a letter perhaps? That would be evidence that you participated as a judge. Do you have any emails or letters that they sent to you asking you to be the judge of this contest? If so, perhaps we can work with that.
Nice.
And let's see what else we have here. Can you give examples of extraordinary evidence for professionals in sales and business who don't have published work and awards? So if you are a professional in sales and business and you don't have published work and awards, it's sort of like that product manager example I gave, where the nature of your work may not be such where you're working on the front lines and people are giving you awards and are publishing articles about you, but there should be some other parameters around which to show that you're really the best at your job. And perhaps that was internal recognition at a company. Perhaps you met some certain sales goal that you have evidence of. Perhaps you received a bonus, which was tied to your extraordinary performance in the workplace. So those are all different things that we would need to take a closer look at to see whether or not you would qualify for extraordinary ability. And in this case, I think letters of recommendation from high level people that you might have worked for or with would also serve as evidence. So I hope that was helpful.
I'm sure it was.
I have a fast growing self-funded startup. I have no funding. Would that be looked at unfavorably by USCIS? So if it's fast growing, I assume you mean that you are profitable, that you're earning revenue. And if you are, then that's evidence, if that's evidence that the startup is working, that whatever you have created, if people are going for it. I don't know who the end clients are, but you would be able to provide financials showing that within a 2-year time frame, I went from 0 to X, and that's evidence of original contributions, critical role. So funding may not, if your startup is profit, I know in the startup world, we're all obsessed with funding and fundraising and VC capital, but if you're a profitable startup and you have grown by X and it's significant, then of course we would want to use that as evidence.
And congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Oh, here's a good logistics question. Can I be abroad when applying to the O1, or should I be in the US with a tourist visa? The answer is yes, you can be abroad when applying for the O1. It's just 2 different processes, whether you're inside or outside the US. If you're abroad, then once the petition's approved, you secure a consular appointment, you get the O1 visa stamp, and then you come into the US. Oh, this is a question that we get asked a lot. So how many reference letter do you need for this visa category? And what is the independent reference letter? So it's definitely quality over quantity. And what that means is we want strong reference letters from experts in the field. We don't necessarily want 20 letters from everybody you ever cross paths with in the workforce. So it's important that you think back again, career highlights. Who were the people that were close with you at that time that might be able to make that connection between you and your critical work at that time. So think of quality over quantity. The independent reference letter, that applies more to people in sometimes artistic fields or fields that are very specialized. If you're an entrepreneur, we usually are not submitting the independent letter. If you're referring to independent as in somebody who doesn't know you personally, yes, those letters are valuable because they're looked at as very objective letters. So if there's, say that you created a product and you presented it at a conference and somebody was there that ended up using it, but they don't know you personally and they're willing to write a letter on your behalf, that would be one of those independent testimonies of somebody who has no personal relationship with you, but they just love your work and have been impacted by it. And then another question, if you do not have evidence for awards within the organization, how can you use this fact for your application? It's fine if you don't have, well, if you received awards, but you don't have evidence, then it's tough to prove that you received that award. But again, if you have any other documentation showing that you were recognized, emails, letters, anything else, we would try to use that as evidence. Perhaps there was some sort of financial bonus attached to that award, and that's showcased in a pay stub. We have to really look at what type of award it was and think through what could satisfy that criteria. Let's see.
There's one in the chat.
Time for a couple more.
Also.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Do you want to read it?
A few popped in the chat. Sure. We have raised some funds for our medtech startup. How much fundraising should be enough to qualify?
So again, there is no specific number, but we want it to be significant. And if you have fundraised at all, we want to try to use that as evidence, right? The more you've raised, obviously, the more impressive it is. So, you know, I don't want to put a specific number on it. I think we have to look at the totality of the situation to see. And we also have to look at who did you raise that money from. And so I think any fundraising helps. And then we also want to provide evidence of who you raised it from. And it could be enough to qualify, but it's hard to say with certainty until we look at the full picture.
Yeah, I think sounds like the big picture is extremely important here, which is
Yes.
Actually, it's comforting because there are so many things that you need to qualify, and knowing that it's being looked at on the whole, it's really nice to know that it's not just one specific thing that's going to get you through or disqualify you.
Right. I mean, unless you want a Pulitzer or Nobel Peace Prize, which alone,
well,
right? Yeah. I mean, even that's what the I think when people see that in the regs, it says, you know, did you win a Pulitzer Prize or Nobel Peace Prize? And they're like, whoa, like I'll never qualify for this. But, you know, that's at the extreme end of the spectrum. You know, of course that person qualifies, but then there's all these other people doing all these other things that could also qualify. Oh, this is a good one. What is the success rate of Alcorn for 01? We are actually really proud of our success rate. I believe we're at 98 or 99%. And I think that's because we carefully vet the cases we take, and we make sure that we are very honest when assessing people's qualifications. And that's why we have this boot camp, because if we think somebody just is not there yet, we want to still provide resources and a way for them to get there quickly so that we get an approval and not a denial in the first place. Oh, I like this question, Lex. It's about the PhD. I think it just popped in.
Real quick, can you guys pop them in the, we've got this one, but can you pop them in the Q&A so we don't miss them? Because we're scrolling through. I think Nadia's looking through the Q&A, but I've got the chat open. It's working.
It's working. Okay, what is your advice for current PhD economics candidate who wants to work towards EB-2 NIW? This is great. And this is in line with the updated USCIS policy guidelines. PhDs are, you know, looked at very, very favorably. And if you're a PhD economics candidate and you want a national interest waiver, then you need to just think about how will that PhD in economics benefit the US's national interest in the future. Maybe you have a business idea, maybe there's a private employer you'll work for, or maybe you'll be in academia, but whatever it is, with the national interest waiver, unlike Extraordinary Ability, which looks back at the highlights of your career to date, the national interest waiver is looking at what is your future work going to be about and how is that going to benefit the US's national interest? And the more specific you can be, the more concrete examples you can provide, the easier it is to make that case for yourself.
There have been lots of great updates recently on things that we have some podcasts on that, by the way, guys. If you want to hear some updates on everything that's going on with immigration, we have some really great podcasts on our website. I'll drop that in the follow-up email as well.
That would be awesome. I think that is going to be super helpful as well. I don't know, Lex, do you see any other questions I can answer? I'm just trying to skim through.
Look through some of these.
Oh, this is funny. Does age matter in EB-1 cases? I have a family friend, maybe qualified for EB-1, but he's almost 80 years old. Can he still do this? I don't see why not. My only question would be that usually with the EB-1, with the green card, they want to know why do you want it and what are you going to do when you get it? So as long as this person, regardless of their age, has a concrete plan for what they want to do with the green card, I don't see why they can't apply for it. I would hope that when I'm 80, I hope that I'm not working. So all the power to this person.
I know. I love that they're 80 and they're wanting to just, go do something like this. That's awesome.
I know. I know.
I did find another one about a tech question. In tech, startups are recognized by niche organizations, blog, media houses versus, say, the New York Times. They are major publications in tech, but not very well known outside. Would recognition from them be valued by USCIS?
It would be valued if you can provide circulation information. So circulation means who is reading that publication, what is the reach, and what is their reputation, what is their standing, so to speak, within the field. So it's fine to be published in a niche publication within your field, but USCIS loves statistics and they want to know the circulation information. If 5 people read it, then unfortunately it might not be great evidence. But if a significant number of people are reading it, then it would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, thank you. There are some other questions. I'm just scrolling through here.
Yeah. Oh, I see one. Do people working in IT fields have chances to apply in EB-1A category? Absolutely. I don't see why not. EB-1A category would certainly apply for people in information technology. As long as you meet the criteria that we went over, you could apply for it.
Thank you. There are a few more in chat.
Yeah, I see. Let's see. Any
F1
award or
student?
fellowship? Yeah, so the F1 ones are interesting. I'm an F1 student, founded a company which hasn't started business yet. I'm waiting for OPT. I'm concerned I may run out of time. Could you explain about concurrent O1 EB1 filing? Yeah, so for the O1, you need a sponsor. So that's a difference between O1 and EB1A. O1 is non-immigrant, which means it's issued for 3 years, while the EB1A is the green card. And so they're two, one is short-term, one is long-term. For the O1, you do need a sponsor. So you would want to figure out who's going to sponsor you. The EB1A, you can self-sponsor if you qualify. And you could do it during your F1 OPT period. You could do either. And I would recommend that you reach out to us for a consultation so we can get into the details of that. Maybe we'll take a couple more, Lex. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Let's take a couple more. Let's head back over to the Q&A because there were some more in Q&A. Let's see. Ooh, if you win, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Would admission to highly selective program like Stanford Business School and starting a business count as extraordinary ability? So this is a good question. I think that getting accepted into any school it's tricky because USCIS wants to see professional level achievement. And if you're saying that, oh, I got into the school, even though it's Stanford, they see that as you are still a work in process. Like you're great, you're awesome, but you're not yet in the profession. You're still sort of in the academic part of your journey. So we can't rely on that as evidence. If you start a business, you fundraise, and then you meet some of that other criteria I went through, then yes. And of course, we can throw the Stanford Business School into it also, but that alone is not, they don't love like, I'm still in school, but I'm doing this. They want to see that you're a professional with like all of this stuff that you've already done as a professional.
Here is one. How important is it to have citations on your patents or papers?
It really helps. It really helps. But even if a patent is pending, USCIS is now going to consider that as evidence. But if you do have citations, then it's all the more strong. I think maybe we'll take one more before we wrap up.
All right, let's see if any more came in through here.
Let's see. Oh, how about this master's in healthcare? Yes, if you have a master's in healthcare, do I qualify for an EB-2 NIW? Again, absolutely. If you can show how your future work in healthcare will benefit the US's national interest. And we can look more specifically at what healthcare field it is. Maybe there's a shortage in the US, and even if there's not a shortage, maybe you're going to be doing something that will absolutely benefit the national interest within your field.
All right. I think you feeling ready? We good to wrap it up, Nadia?
I think so. I mean, all of these questions are great. I really hope that we covered enough of them to sort of hit points and other questions we might not have been able to answer. And as always,
some questions
we are
were very
happy.
similar to others also, I'm seeing. So
Exactly. You're
yeah.
totally right. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you all so much for being here. And please check your emails. We'll probably have the email out tomorrow with the link to EA Bootcamp and the link to our website. Our website is alcorn.law if you would like to visit us for any reason. And we'll follow up with the discount code. The replay to this webinar will be there as well. And we can't thank you all enough for taking your time to be here with us today. Thank you so much, Nadia.
And of course, Lex, it was great having this webinar with you. And of course, if you have specific questions about your specific situation, you should reach out to us directly so we can make sure we are able to assist you.
All right.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.